Hi, I'm Kai Nagata. I'm a television journalist based here in Montreal, Canada, and I'm also a lifelong cyclist. Right now, cycling is getting more and more popular in Montreal, with 10% of all commuters getting to work by bike, like me, and city officials want that number to increase. Bicycle means more bicycle traffic, and that means sharing the road. There's lots of opinions about how pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers should act and interact in the city. Let's find out what people think. Is there anything Montreal could do to improve things for cyclists?
Yeah, well, I think the city should try to expand the system of cycle paths. One thing I learned this morning is that one should drive against traffic because that's a problem. Sometimes there are corners where drivers just cannot see you coming, and so you should really try to avoid driving against the traffic if possible.
What advice do you have for cyclists in the city?
Cyclists should have their own bike lane and drive towards the oncoming traffic because they will be able to better see what the other parked cars are doing, whether they're driving or parked. The cyclists.
What do you think drivers ought to do to help keep cyclists safe?
Drivers should always check their rearview mirrors before opening their doors so that they don't hit a bicycle that's coming up behind them.
Do you spend more time driving or riding a bike?
Driving.
What do you think Montreal could do to encourage cycling as an option for people?
Maybe education, maybe some restriction to driving downtown.
So maybe making it harder for drivers.
Right, that's the nature, the human nature.
What advice would you give people who are cycling with children?
There should be a law that says all children starting from age 6 should be educated on the rules of bicycling.
What do you think of the idea of kids wearing bike helmets?
I think they should, but a lot of them won't.
What do you think the city could do to make cyclists even safer in Montreal?
I think it would be best if bicycles and buses were not on the same street
Why do you think that?
because they're not compatible. The bus is very large and we're very small and not protected, but we drive approximately the same speed or in the same path.
What do you think cyclists should do to help keep themselves safe in traffic?
Be more aware of both automobiles and pedestrians. I think there are ways in which sometimes we cut corners in terms of moving through traffic. Particularly moving traffic, I think cyclists need to be aware.
What do you think when you see cyclists riding around with headphones in?
I don't think it's the best idea. You have to be alert. You don't often need your ears when you're cycling, but every once in a while you hear something that indicates something that you didn't see. And for safety reasons, that I think, I'd like to bike and listen to music too, but if you're going to do that, I think you should do that in a park.
What advice do you have for cyclists in the city?
People should never wear Walkmans or iPods or whatever while they cycle because a lot of cycle safety.
What advice would you give people who are cycling with children?
I think cycling on the sidewalk is fine with kids. I think most pedestrians are at ease with it. Look here, look at how wide this sidewalk is. If you have young children who are just learning to cycle, I don't see anything wrong with cycling on the sidewalk along here.
What's your impression of Montreal as a cycling?
Cyclists should take a bigger piece of the city and play a bigger role in the city. And I think that drivers and even pedestrians should relax a bit about cyclists. Cyclists are good for cities.
Wherever bikes and cars share the road, people are going to have opinions about how they ought to interact. Montreal is no exception, and we may not have solved all the problems yet, but we're working on it. I'm Kai Nagata reporting from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.